So how big? Tell them how big the ranch is.
The ranch is about 7,000 acres, and we have private and federal lands in that. And it was originally homesteaded by my great-grandmother. Actually, right out here on this flat was her first homestead.
Right out here?
Yep. And then she met my great-grandfather riding Roundup, and she was a school teacher. And then they got married, and he put his homestead down by the house that I grew up at. And then my grandfather had a homestead, so as well as when he got older. And they just started to buy up homesteads across the land, and that's how they created the ranch.
What did they use it for over the years?
Over the years, it was started out as a sheep, horse, and cattle operation. And great-grandfather sold horses to the cavalry in Fort Robinson. So, and then over the years, it turned, we sold the sheep off, and then we sold the horses, and then it just turned to a cattle operation. And then my dad came home and to help my grandpa run the ranch. And then in the early 70s, he started his oil field business, and where he would take care of oil wells around in the area and help complete them. And then he got sick, and then he passed away in 2000. And then so I moved home, and my husband moved home, and we kind of took over helping with paleo on the ranch, and been here ever since.
Tell them about the paleo.
So Paleo Park was started in 1998. It was a dream of my mom and dad's to create a place where kids could come and find dinosaur bones. My parents loved to see the look on little kids' face to be the first person to hold a dinosaur bone in their hand. So the first dinosaur was taken out in 1908 off the ranch. It was a mummified duckbill that currently resides at the Museum of Natural History in New York. And so we've always had dinosaurs. We've always had paleontologists on the ranch for well over 100 years. And that's what I grew up doing in the summer times, was helping paleontologists find bones and do their master papers and all of that on the ranch. So that's how I spent my summers, just going around the ranch looking for dinosaur bones. They just sit on the ranch. So my dad and mom wanted to find a dinosaur for every grandchild. So my brother has 2 kids, Kelsey and Lane, which are older than mine. So they found dinosaurs for those 2. And Kelsey is a Triceratops. She lives in this Children's Museum of Indianapolis. And Lane, who's also a Triceratops, he's in Houston at the Natural History Museum there. And the cool thing about Kelsey is that she was pretty much complete, except she was eaten by nanotyrannosauruses. All her bones were taken everywhere, and so they put them all back together. And then we know what articulated feet on Triceratops look like, because Kelsey had articulated feet. And then the cool thing about Lane is that Lane had skin impressions on it. So, and we have a cast at the lodge that we'll get to look at. So we know what a Triceratops looked like, and it's really nothing what everyone thought it was going to be like.
Cool. So this is the ranch?
Yep. And they started building paleo in 99, and then it was completed the May of 2000, the same time my dad passed away, and we had our first tours out of it June of 2000.
Cool. And they still do them?
Yep. Now my kids do them because I had to get a real job.
Welcome to Paleo Park. That's what that sign says. Okay. Kind of cool. They have to cross the river to get out to the ranch. So tell me that part about the school again.
So this, so I went to school up here on top. My grandfather built the house and the schoolhouse, and so my dad went to school there, and I was the last one to go to school there.
What grades did you go?
I went K through 6th grade there, and then my 7th and 8th grade year, I went to the school district bought a trailer house, and they put it on my neighbor's ranch, and I finished out 7th and 8th grade there because they condemned it because it was infested with black widow spiders. So they condemned it, and we moved across there. But when the river would come up, the teacher would come down to the river, meet us when we would jump on the cart, and then we would go across on the cart.
Cable across.
And then when it got too high, then the teacher would just jump in the cart with all her stuff, and then she would live with us and teach us at home.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
And you say when the river's high, you guys kind of got pinned out here sometimes a little bit.
Yeah, when the river runs, there's really only one way out. And back in '79, I think it was, that bridge went out. And so we were basically marooned here for about 3 or 4 months. And we had to learn how to get to town a different way. So we, it was a long 3 months being out in the middle of nowhere. No grocery store, close to home.
Fun.
The park was started in 2000, and that was when it was completed. And my dad and my mom had started building the lodge itself in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And in the building of it, my dad was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and he ended up passing away the same month that it was completed. So we had all the neighbors come, and they helped clean it all up and put it all together. And so we started our first tours in June of 2000. And from there, we have the dinosaurs that we do during the summertime, and then we have the hunting season that starts October 1. So we do 2 weeks of that as well in the summer. So about 1st of September, it turns into a hunting camp on that. So we have quite a few people that come through. We've had people from China, Italy, England, France, Germany, all over the world really come here for tours. And so they've all have got to look over all the stuff that we pulled off the ranch. We've been pulling stuff off the ranch for over 100 years, since the 1908 was the first one that was taken off. And the first one was taken off was a mummified duckbill, and it was taken off by Charles Sternberg and his 2 boys. It is in a New York Natural History Museum. And the nice thing about that is that it was mummified, so you can see the skin. So you know what a duckbill looked like. And then later on, my mom and dad wanted to find dinosaurs and name it after every grandchild. So they got to find Kelsey and they got to find Lane. And then with my 2 kids, it's up to me to find mine. So we're gonna find Wyatt and Jaden. But Kelsey was pretty scientific. She was taken out in 1998 by the Black Hills Institute over in Hill City. They came over and did it.
So this is Kelsey?
Yep. So when they first found Kelsey, my mom and dad were just out prospecting like we always did. And when they first found her, let's see if I can find a better one. She was just laying on top of the ground. But the only thing was exposed was the beak right here and the nasal horn. So they started digging and the bone kept going on there. So here's the skull of Kelsey. So the frill, the round part that went around the neck, is back here. This is the beak, and this is the jaw here. This is the nasal horn and the big horn that went on top. So from here to here was 6 feet. And so it was pretty big, so they had to do different pods. So they built casts around each one so they could take it out easily. So here it is. Here's a skull, and here's a pod, and here's a pod. And then we had a pedestal down, and then you undercut it, and then you start wrapping the plaster around it. And then we took it out with backhoe. I don't think it's gonna show here. Here's the backhoe here. So once they got them all done, they had to pull it up here. And then they took it over to Black Hills Institute over in Hill City, and they prepped it, and they put all the bones back together. And this is what she looks like today.
In the Natural History Museum?
This is in the Children's Museum in Indianapolis.
Okay. And that came off your ranch?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was named after the first grandchild. And the cool thing about Kelsey is she had articulated feet, so they know how the feet went together. Always before it was kind of guessing game, and it always is kind of like that. But she had articulated feet, so we know exactly how that went together. So a few years later, my mom was out prospecting, and she found another Triceratops, but this one had skin impressions with it. So this is what Triceratops would have looked like on the side. And then as it got to the top, on top of the back, these little circles here got bigger. And then every once in a while, these would just kind of cone up on the top of the back. So the underside, you can see it had like an armor plates underneath of it. So that is what we know what a Triceratops looks like now. So going with the Triceratops, this is a cast, this is a real bone, this is a horn of a Triceratops, just a partial one. We find these just laying out on top of the ground. So that one's real, and this is another one.
So the tip goes out here.
Yep, it would have been
It's
back
just
here more.
broken off.
Yep. They're just little chunks of the horns.
And you just find those lying around.
Yep, I found them just hanging out of sagebrush. Just finding them. This is a vertebrae. This is a real bone. This is a vertebrae that my grandfather found a long time ago.
You know what of?
Triceratops.
Triceratops.
So Triceratops are round, and duckbills are oval. This is a duckbill. And again, it's just, we found it, this one just laying on top.
So those
the
are
ground.
those discs in the spine that stack up, right?
Yep. Here is the jawbone of Kelsey. This is a cast. The lower jaw. They took the bone off of the teeth so you can see how the teeth were lined in there. But there was a tooth, and there was a tooth, and there was a tooth. They had tons and hundreds of different teeth in their head. So when one would fall off, this one would shoot up. So when you had one, this is a real tooth of a Triceratops. So when that thing was about ready to fall out, then that one would shoot up in it. So we find a bunch of these shed teeth, they're flat on the bottom, and find hundreds of them bound.
If this will focus on.
So this is a cast of a duckbill brain. They put resin inside of a cat or a real skull and pulled it out. So that's what a brain would have looked like from a duckbill. We have a lot of leaf impressions, and we get a lot of conifer cone, pine cones. We found pistachio leaves. We found seeds. So this is a whole other part of the paleontology, really, is all of the leaves and impressions that we get. And the conifer, the pine cones that we get.
That's a petrified pine cone.
Yep.
Kind of cool. See the seeds in there.
This is a duckbill. This is a cast too, but this is a cast of a jawbone of a duckbill. Same. You have one there, one there, one there, one there. So when these shed teeth popped out, another one would shoot right up. Here you have a bunch of oysters and snails. A long time ago, when my grandpa was young, the neighbor had a shelf of oysters on his place, and he would get his wagon and push his wagon up to it and shovel oysters into his wagon, and he would feed his chickens with it. So they were eating prehistoric
oysters, huh?
This is a metatarsal that my son has worked with paleontologists to rebuild. This part was gone, this part was gone. There were some gaps in here, so he worked with some paleo guys and rebuilt it all back. This here is a cast as well. It's a T-Rex tooth. So the brown part was the root, and the black part here was the tooth. So you can see on the side, they got serrations on the side. You can see it. But definitely a meat eater. He was a big guy. So that's just a cast, but we have found a real T-Rex bone, or tooth, here. And so you can see the serrations on the side again, both sides, like a steak knife. They found this digging out a shoulder blade of a Triceratops.
Oh, really?
It was just laid right in there. Yeah.
So, bit on it.
Yeah, this one looked to have been eaten, and then it just washed up. Where we'll go today, it was like a beach area, and so all those bones just washed in on layers. These are Nanotyrannosaurus teeth. They're pretty. They have serrations on both sides as well. And the teeth kind of retain their enamel so they shine. So we have a bunch of them that we'll go into. You'll find a rib cage of a Triceratops I found one time. And it had these teeth wedged into the ribs and were just ripped off. And they were that savage that they would rip off right into the ribs. So when they found her, they found a whole bunch. And when they found Kelsey as well, they found a whole bunch of shed teeth all through that. And you can see in the mapping of it, when they take out a dinosaur bone, they map it where they found each bone. And they catalog it. So here's all the catalog to all the teeth. Or not all teeth, all the bones here.
So where they find it, and then the layout of the animal.
And then they map it. So some nanos had gone in here and just ripped all of the ribs out. And there's a vertebrae, tibia over here. So that's the important part, is to, when you excavate, you're just not excavating right here, you have to be sure and go all around just to make sure that there's nothing that has been slipped through the years.
So something fed on it, and then they find the pieces of teeth in the animal.
Yep, they were all like just all through there. And when they found turtle underneath of her, so when she had fell over, there was a turtle right down here. We had to break the neck part out because it was such a big pod. And so when we were tunneling down to pedestal it, and then we found turtle pieces. So we had crocodiles, turtles, all of your ocean life, stingrays, gars, all of your marine life, plus we had mammals too. So we're finding a lot of mammal stuff. Here's a one that we usually find. This is just a cast, but we find a lot of his teeth. A lot of times, and we'll find skull materials of mammals. This is a garfish, current day, but we've always tried to figure out why we find millions of gar skulls when we go out, and they're always different shapes. So it's kind of nice to actually look at a real one to figure out how they went in there. Sometimes you'll find round ones. So round ones, we know now, went right down the spine. And then the more of the diamond shaped ones were on the side. But we'll find these, gosh, lots and lots.
This is just a wood carving, right?
No,
or
it's
is this a real
one.
fish?
Yeah, it's a real one.
Sitting on a wood
piece of wood. Yeah, we had a friend that got it down from Florida, and he brought it out.
And you find the scales that are petrified.
Yep. Skull material, teeth, and scales we all find.
What's this?
This is, it was all of the matrix has been taken out, but this is the underside of a turtle, so the spine would have been here. And there's a rib there, and there's a rib here. But you turn it over, you can see the pattern of a turtle.
Interesting.
And this was jacketed and then all of the material on the top came out. So that's how it just kind of sits.
Tell me about the footprint.
This is a footprint. We have a area where we have all of our footprints on the trackway, and we have herbivores and carnivores living in a perfect world. So this animal here, they had never found the animal for. So when they first found the tracks, the scientific paper was written up, and this was named after my family. So it's called Soryx albus zerpsti. It's a mouthful. But when they first found it, they thought it was a bird that flew in and was eating. There was a bunch of snails in the tracks that you can see. And it was in a slough area, so they thought it was just feeding. But then they found the dew claws were both going the same way. So then they looked back and they found another one back here. So there's actually two of them walking side by side. So this one gets named after ours. They do think they found the animal up in Montana, and it's called Anzu. And even though they found the animal, the track will still be named after our family. So we'll have the name on that one. So you can kind of see impressions here of algae that was growing on the mud. We'll see that in the tracks when we go over. But to get a good replication, we had a paleontologist that created a painting of the trackway. So we have that in the back. While our guests get to sleep. So this right here is the whole trackway, and you had a duckbill coming out of the water, and then you had a bunch of birds all out there, so you'll see a bunch of bird prints. You had Struthiomimus just kind of walking along the edge. You had some T-Rexes that were aggressive. There's a bunch of different tracks in there. And then you had Soryx albus zerpsti, or Anzu, that was coming in to the water. You had a crocodile who's actually painted wrong, but he should be coming out of the water. You'll see his feet where his tail swishes when he goes out of the mud. So all these guys were living in the same world within 2 hours of each other, has done all this stuff within 2 hours. They found raindrop impressions in the mud. They found all this algae that was growing on the mud. And then they found the snail holes in there. And something came in and just covered up this layer, and then made another layer. So.
And the animal fossils are in that layer?
Nope.
No?
No, you don't find really fossils next to a trackway for whatever reason. So I guess they were moving on. They weren't dying yet, so they were moving on. But now if you go up into the hills a little bit above this, then you'll find some dinosaur bones, but there's nothing down here.
Not in the trackway?
No, just the tracks.
Interesting story. If you've seen the new Jurassic Park.
Yes, so if you've seen the new Jurassic Park, I know the guy that supplied all the dinosaur skeletons for that.
In the library scene?
In the library scene where the little girl is scurrying around, and they have all of the skeletons set up in the house. And John Hankla is our paleontologist that works on our ranch, and he's been coming here since he was little. And so now he got to bring those dinosaurs that were in Jurassic World, and he brought them in the back. And so they, the kids get to put them together, and then they get to sleep underneath them.
In here?
Yep. Yep. So this year he just brought the Edmontosaurus, the duckbill. So they put that together, and it was sitting up here, and he just actually took it down and moved it last Saturday.
Oh, bummer.
So we missed that one, but yeah, it was pretty cool to know that that guy had been to London and back and all that. So usually he does he has a couple different skeletons, but the coolest thing is that the kids put it together.
Yeah.
And then they get to sit underneath of it, sleep underneath of it, and then when they go out to the field and find the bone, they bring it out and they can match it right to the skeleton, so they know exactly where it went.
What was his name again?
John Hankla?
Hanklin?
Hankla.
Hankla.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. This guy here is my dad found. He was just sitting on top of a hill, waiting to be found. This part here was kind of in a big clump. And there was this part, and there's little bits. The knobs on the back were all kind of broken off, and the lower jaw had been gone a long time ago. Lower jaws are hinged, so over the years, the lower jaws usually leave. So my dad put it in the ice cream bucket and took it over to the Black Hills Institute over in Hill City, and they put it together in their lunch break. So it was a pretty big one. It's called a Pachycephalosaurus, and it's a pretty cool find. And the real one, this is a cast, the real one is over in Hill City. So, and we have casts of the Struthiomimus up here. When they first found them, they looked like they had just stepped out of the mud, and they're pretty hard to see anymore. They were really weathering pretty quick.
Out there?
Yeah.
So you have these casts.
Yep, and then over here, you can see the Black Hills Institute came over and took a complete cast of the whole trackway.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all of the Struthiomimus walking here. You have a T-Rex, a juvenile T-Rex over here. Water was over here. The Sorixolobus zerpstai coming out here. This is actually one time we had some people come out and we didn't know it, and they went over to the tracks and tried to steal this track out.
Oh, really?
And they just basically destroyed the track. So yeah, so the only ones in the world, and that one's gone now. So the only ones you can really see are these two here now, and then a little bit of this one here. T-Rex all through here. Duckbill right there, and then the crocodile coming out right there. There were over 100 different tracks in the trackway. You got all your little birds, your algae all over here. And then towards this end is the end of it, where you got Sorixolobus coming out.
Hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's the lodge. That's where when student groups come out, they stay here. When that paleontologist, she was talking about John, who worked on the Jurassic Park movie, and he does scientific research on his own for different groups and for a museum or something in Denver, Colorado. We're gonna go out and drive around different points on the ranch and look at some of the dinosaur stuff in person. So kind of cool. Anyway, who knew, out here in eastern Wyoming. Hopefully you can hear me, the wind's blowing hard. I might break this into 2 parts, so this might be the end of part 1, and then we'll jump out and go see different sites for part 2.